Overcoming your own limiting beliefs using like Neville Goddard, law of assumption, law of attraction principles is actually way easier than I think a lot of people make it out to be. I've been doing a series going through Neville Goddard's Your Faith is Your Fortune, which is a book that the first time I read it, it made little to no sense to me and I really disliked it. And then the second time that I went through it, I was like, oh no, I actually enjoy this quite a bit and a lot of it's making sense to me. And so recently I was like, I'm going to start going through his books and doing an explanation of his teachings from kind of my point of view and my perspective, and hopefully make things a little bit more clear for you. My purpose here is for personal development, right? Like when I look at the things that I want to do, the way that I want to help others, it's for you to use these teachings for your own personal development so that you can grow in the person that you are. You can learn how to expand your own consciousness. You can learn how to really have more trust and faith in yourself and in God while you're working through learning how to use like the law of assumption. And when I say learning how to use the law of assumption, keep in mind that you're using it every day, all day. There is nothing that you are that you don't think that you are. And I know that that sounds like, oh, you're just giving some like twisted words that make no sense. But everything that you truly believe of yourself is what you have, right? Like if you think about it, try to imagine something that at your core you truly honestly believe that you are that type of person or you have that kind of thing. Try to think of something that you believe that strongly in that's not actually in your life. And if you are honest with yourself, you'll find that you can't find one. If there's anything that you're like, no, I believe that this is true, the belief is likely more, I believe that it's coming to me, which is fine. You can work on yourself and know that you're developing yourself. That's all what personal development is. And that's what I'm trying to do here is to teach people how to use these teachings in a very practical way, because when you look at it truly, it actually makes a lot of logical sense. The only things that I am, the only things that I get reflected to me are the things that I actually believe are true. So how do I change the beliefs that I have so that other things are true for me? Because if I believe that I'm in poverty, right? And if you look around, this is truth. If you believe that everybody's always mean to you and nobody wants to be your friend, that's what you keep getting presented in the world. If you believe that you're never going to get the job that you want or you're never going to get into the school that you want and you have a job that you hate, that's actually what is happening in your world. So are you able to take a step back and say, okay, I believe these things now, but I want to change them? When I look at Neville Goddard's Your Faith is Your Fortune, I'm actually reading from chapter 4 today. And if you've been following along with this, I'm also doing this on my podcast with a little bit of different topics and going into different information. When I first started this, I was like, oh, I'm going to read the whole chapter. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's too much. Like it's not going well for me because by the time I read the chapter, my thoughts are not put together well. And I'm like, you can find this online anywhere else very easily. So I'll actually put a link down below to a website that you can not only read it, but you can listen to the full book on its own. So I think that's actually better. And so I do want to read a little bit of information. Good will come to most of these enrolled students. They will discover after years of awaiting and sacrificing that they were following a mirage. He's talking about the fact of following false leaders, right? Because when it comes down to it, even myself, right, I'm here teaching or sharing information. I want to share it so that you can take it and make sense to you. You have to learn how to trust yourself. There's nobody else out there who's going to be able to give you some magic formula. I was actually working with a client earlier last week, and he made a comment to me about how, well, like, I thought you were going to tell me what to do. I thought you were going to give me a list of what to do, and then I would go do it, and then that would be able to change my life. And while I get that there's a lot of teachers out there that do that, there's a lot of coaches out there that do that. When it comes down to it, you can for a bit. If you follow somebody else's rules, like, right, if you read in a book to write out your goals 5 times every morning, yes, you are likely going to figure out how to get this to work for you. But if that's not something that you want to continue doing, what is your limiting belief beyond it? Why are you not trusting in yourself, your own assumptions, your own faith? That's the stuff that needs to be uncovered. So when you're having stuck points in any kind of manifestation journey, changing your life, personal development, the key is yourself. What are you doing or what are you thinking that is preventing you from getting the changes that you want? You could have, like, right, the good will come to most of these enrolled students. They will discover after years of awaiting and sacrificing that they were following a mirage. Then they will become disillusioned in their schools and teachers, and this disappointment will be worth the effort and price they have paid for their fruitless search. And it's like, wait a minute, what exactly does this mean? And I found myself in the same position. I was constantly looking years ago for somebody to tell me exactly what to do. And when somebody would share a success story online, I would go and try to mimic exactly what they had done. If you can do it, I can do it, right? Let me get this success story in the exact same way that you did. The problem was is that I had very limited success in this because I wasn't learning how to trust myself. I wasn't learning what was going to work for me, and I wasn't learning what process is going to be the right one for me. So when I talk about a process and when I talk about a way that you can make changes to your life, it is to really uncover your own blocks. What are you doing to prevent yourself? What are these thoughts that you have? And you have to look within. So you should take the information you learn online, or you should take the information you get from a coach or the information you get from a course and figure out, okay, how do I build this into my own life? How does this make sense to me? How do I become the person that I want to be? How do I change these feelings that I have to say, this is who I am? Everything that I say I am, everything that I believe truly of myself is what I'm picturing in the world. That's what I'm getting. And so he actually goes on to say, you are master of all that you will ever be aware of being. That's because you truly have the gift and the capability and the ability to say, this is who I am, and this is what I'm going to embody, and this is what I'm going to see in the world. And you are the only master in that. You could be completely isolated by man from that which you are conscious of being, yet you would, in spite of all human barriers, effortlessly draw yourself to all that you were conscious of being. So, in other words, when we're talking about like this lack of action or having to take action, you will have natural actions that happen just because of the person you're saying you're going to be. And I want to talk about that just a bit more here. So, if you consider the fact that, whoo, there goes my computer. It looks okay. My bad. But so if you consider the fact that you are, let's say, a very healthy person, you're very health conscious, and one of your favorite things to do is to get up in the morning and make sure that you get your workout in, right? Like if you don't get that workout in, you're just not feeling like yourself and you're kind of like down in the dumps. That's an identity that you hold. That identity shapes your daily habits. If you're someone who feels that they are absolutely beautiful and loves the way that they look and thinks that they are sexy and desirable and very like has love just kind of in all areas of their life, you're going to take care of yourself a bit differently than someone who views themselves as completely unworthy, unlovable, and unable to have the things that they want in life. I'm hoping that makes sense because your identity is going to shift your habits. And Neville Goddard calls these your states. So when you have a state of being, that state of being is going to drive the habits that you have, the routines that you have. If you were this like very fit person and you had this identity that you held on to very close to your center, very close to the person that you say that you are, your me map, is if you had that very close to you, you wouldn't wake up and like not get out of bed for 4 days because your identity is with somebody who is fitness focused, very health conscious, and works on their like physical body. And I'm going to do this in the opposite way. If you identify as someone who struggles constantly with depression, who is very unhappy in life, who has more lows than ups than the average person, that's unfortunately the thing that you're going to experience. That's your identity. That is the habit that you're creating because that's a reality that is created for you. And I do want to take a minute here, especially if you're new here. If you're not, you've probably heard me talk about this many times before. But if you're new here, this does not mean that you are to blame or to cast like judgment and anger upon yourself. Self-forgiveness is one of the most beautiful tools that you can find because You don't need to own that shame. You don't need to own this being upset with yourself. And I think this happens a lot in the law of assumption community where people are like, oh my gosh, well, I created this. I drew this horrible abuse into my life. I said that I somehow wanted or prayed for this awful life, that I'm in poverty or I feel depressed every single day. Like, I don't want that. I did not try to manifest this. I didn't bring this into my own life. And you're correct. You can unconsciously have a identity that it's not that you chose it, right? And it can be for many different things. There can be, you know, issues that happened within your childhood, trauma that has been unresolved. You could have just things that have happened that you were not paying attention to, that you slowly kind of became this person that you currently are. And so it does not mean that there's any reason to be upset with yourself or to cast blame or to think like down on yourself or just nothing in these teachings are to be cruel or mean to yourself. As a matter of fact, I think all of them are to see the perfection that is you. And perfection is flawed, right? Perfection doesn't have to mean that there is no flaws and no suffering and no sadness, because all of that is also an experience that we get to have here. And so I think the more that we talk about this and the more that I get into this and the more that you start to learn that you are your own master, you do get to choose the person that you are and who you embody, the better that you'll start to feel because you have a choice. And it can be difficult to see that choice. I've spoken a little bit about the fact that I read this book, The Choice, Embrace the Possible, which was done by a Holocaust survivor. And she's now a therapist and she works with a lot of people who've suffered immense trauma. And she talks about the fact that you always have a choice. You may not have a choice in the thing that happens to you, right? The thing that you're experiencing in this right now, the way that somebody is treating you that you do not like. Yeah, you're right. You may not have a choice in that. Not a conscious choice, right? And that's okay. But you do have a choice in the way that you view it. You have a choice in what you do with it. And you have a choice in the way that you spend your days after that. And as a quick caveat, I do want to say too, I'm not a licensed therapist. So if you are really having some deep struggles and you are struggling with either like feelings of self-harm or wanting to harm others or not being able to see like any kind of light at the end of the tunnel, please do reach out to a licensed therapist in your area. It can be one of the best things that you've ever done. But if you're looking for personal development, growing into your own goals, it's something that you are not struggling as much with maybe the like self-loathing or concerns of self-harm, then you can definitely reach out. If you have any interest in talking one-on-one, I'm definitely happy to. My focus is on around self-development and personal development and changing your self-concept. It's not about specifically manifesting something. I don't believe that a coach can tell you how to manifest something. They can tell you how to achieve your goals, how to work towards your own personal goals, and how to become this person that you want to be, how to shift your identity, shift your state. So I hope that you found this beneficial. I hope that it made perfect sense. If not, definitely tell me down below. I am okay with the constructive criticism and feedback. If you have any questions, I would also love to hear them. Please leave a comment down below. And if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe if you want to keep listening to this kind of content. I am definitely going to be back. I've got a bunch more stuff to talk about. I'm going to try to keep the videos that are on YouTube to about 10-ish minutes, at least under 15. And then if you like longer form content, I also have a podcast that you can find on any of the streaming platforms, Unleashing Happiness. Yeah, and I think that's it. So have a beautiful, beautiful day. I hope all that is well in your world. And if not, remember, you are able to create a life that you truly love.